What up, players? Welcome back to another video. If you've been following us for a while, you've seen this truck on the channel before. This is my cousin's 67 C10. He's got the rear small window back here, and he's the one who's actually rocking Martin's old hoods. He's in the stages of getting the truck repainted, and he's going through some suspension work right now. They redid some of the back stuff. Now the rear is sitting lower, but the front needs to go down a little bit. So he brought it to me. He wanted me to do the whole pancake thing to the Crossmember. This video I'll just be showing you guys how we do it, and just be taking you guys through. So anyways, this is what we're gonna be doing, guys. So this here is a Crossmember. You can see here the upper and lower control arms are both bolted to it, and your motor mounts are also connected to the top of it. So it goes from this side, it goes underneath the frame rails all the way to this side over here. So basically what we're gonna be doing is taking out the Crossmember and cutting out 2 inches all the way around it, and sitting that plate down, re-welding it, and reinstalling it. What that's gonna do is push all this suspension stuff up 2 inches, letting the truck body to go down 2 inches. So doing that might run us into a few things. Like, since the arm's coming up 2 inches, we're gonna run into the steering here, and our tie rods might be a little too close to the frame. So I'm gonna take you guys along the process of pancaking your 67 to 72 C10 and what you need to do, what comes up. I'll show you guys how to do it. So also, I'm gonna have to raise a little shock bracket here up 2 inches as well. All right, guys, we got the wheel off now. You can see the big bag in here. Anyways, we're gonna remove the upper and lower control arm. I don't want to deal with the brakes again, so I'm gonna take off the brakes and just have them to the side over here, tied up. Remove the shock, take off the tie rod from the spindle, just get all this stuff out the way. That way we could drop the Crossmember with nothing on it. It'll just be only Crossmember. We'll gotta move over to the other side and do the exact same thing. All right, guys, so your truck more than likely is gonna have the exact same setup this guy has. So your suspension front kit might look a little different, but majority of the stuff needs to be done the same. So we removed his shock from that bottom bracket there and the lower control arm. The top 2 bolts of the control arm are out. We got the tie rod loose. We're just having it hold up the spindle for now. And now all we gotta do is disconnect the bag and the 2 U-bolts holding the lower control arm in place. And then we'll pull the whole assembly out together in one piece. And then it's just removing all the bolts, actually mounting the Crossmember to the frame. So once you do all that, you'll be able to drop the Crossmember. We'll get out here on a stand, and I'll show you guys how much we're gonna be cutting out, how we go about laying that out. All right, guys, we got all the suspension out the way, got the bags aired out, got the lines disconnected. I forgot to mention that as well. So there's no more air in the system. Brake lines out the way, I got the calipers tied up, and right now we're tackling all the Crossmember mounting bolts. So there's these two underneath, which are from the inside coming out. So there's 4 on the side, and there's 3 underneath. Bethel's going after right now. That Crossmember will be fully out. All right, guys, everything's ripped out of the truck. We got it sitting down over here, control arms and stuff, and now we got the Crossmember over here, ready for work. So I gotta get a stand set up, and we'll get this thing up, and I'll show you guys how to lay out your cuts and everything. All right, guys, me and Bethel got the Crossmember over here, in the shade, and we cleaned it up a little bit. Just got some of the grease off and stuff. Maybe wipe it down a little bit. And I'm gonna use 2-inch masking tape to lay out my cuts. That way, for sure, I'm taking out 2 inches. So that's the objective here, is to cut 2 inches out of this Crossmember. We're gonna cut it, like, say about here. Then this top piece is gonna come off. Once we take the 2 inches out, we're gonna sit it back down on top of that. Therefore, keeping this mounting point to the frame in the same place, but pushing this up 2 inches. So maybe it sounds a little confusing, but I'll show you guys right now once I lay this stuff out, and then you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, guys, so the frame rails on your truck basically sit in here. So to ensure that once we cut this down and lower it, that it'll still go up those 2 extra inches, we gotta just make sure that where we cut is gonna be in line with this side of the Crossmember. So I'm using a tri-square here, and I'm basically making my marks here so I can know where to put my tape, so that once I go to put this back on, I won't have any issues fitting the frame rails back in between. So I got 2 little marks here. I'm gonna put my tape along there. That way I know to cut right there along that line. So just wanted to let you guys know that. I don't know how Martin does this so smoothly.
Doesn't do it with the 2-inch tape.
Yeah, but he did this one last time with 2-inch tape and it came out so smooth. Down at the middle part here, it gets kind of close, so you're gonna end up almost cutting all the way down to the bottom. All right, guys, we're wrapped around with our 2-inch tape all the way around. I know it looks a little janky,
job.
not the best taping job,
Martin
but
wasn't here.
Big Weddle wasn't here to lay down the perfect tape lines like he normally is, but I understand this. Basically, you're gonna make 2 cuts, okay? You're gonna cut here, and then cut the top of this one. That way you take off the whole centerpiece. Now we're gonna cut this all the way underneath this, and then down the side and underneath this one, and that'll take our 2 inches off the front and back. Then we'll get the main piece and sit it back in past our 2 inches that we cut, and we should have 2 inches of space on each side. Just because when you start cutting and stuff, the tape will start bubbling and peeling with the heat. I'm gonna go around with the little cutting wheel and just scribe all the lines so I don't lose those lines. All right, guys, we got everything traced out with the grinder. We removed the tape. Now we're never gonna lose our cut mark, so I'm gonna get to cutting this.
All right, that was the last of the cutting for the top piece.
So this piece we're keeping. Now we're cutting our 2 inches out, then we're gonna throw this back in place. It's not gonna fit perfect because of the shape change, so I'll show you guys once we get to that.
All right, guys, we just got done cutting off this top piece. And for everybody in the comments on Instagram talking shit about my fucking holy socks or whatever, look, I went on, put on my nice socks. 10 minutes in, I'm already fucking burning holes in. It happens, you know? I was not wearing fucking dirty old ass socks.
They said those are your Sunday socks.
Those
They're
are my
all holy.
Sunday socks, my work socks. I put on new ones and look what happens.
So guys, that's why you wear shoes. Anyways, we're gonna keep rolling on this thing and cut out the rest of our pancake here. It's been cut on this side all the way through. Now that's the 2 inches gone. All right, players, as you can see here, I got the plate sitting back on top of the Crossmember, and you can see there's a lot of big gaps all the way around. Like I had mentioned, because of the shape of this thing, there was gonna be gaps. And so the most important thing is to get this piece centered with the Crossmember, and to make sure the difference here and here measure the same, basically making this plate leveled with like it used to be. So to get that, you could just measure here, the distance here, and the distance from here to here, and make sure this is the same and this is the same. Tack it up in all 4 corners. Just make sure you check your measurements before you get those tacks in, and as long as everything's good, you're good to go on welding everything out. All right, players, we're back. I had run out of gas, but we picked up a new bottle, and this is the rod I'm using. I just been grinding it down to fit in the spots that I needed to fit in, but I just wanted to show you guys. I welded one side, and I used the rod to fill in the gaps. You can see it's a lot of weld going on there and there where the big gaps were. But now I just want to show you guys basically what I'm doing with the rod, just in case you didn't really understand. Here's a perfect example, a nice even big gap. I would weld here, cover all this up. Once it gets hot enough and welded to here, I could just tap the rest in and it'll fit into this crack, and I'll come back up here, and basically that's what I'm doing, and works for me. So you could do things your way if you know easier way for you. This is the way I'm gonna do it. And then I also got this flat stock, also from Home Depot. It's a 2-inch flat stock. It's gonna sit in perfectly right there. There's our 2-inch cut. I'm gonna put this flat stock in there, weld that down. The most important thing is that you don't want this flat stock sticking past where your frame rails used to sit. Otherwise you're gonna struggle and you're gonna fight it up there. It's not gonna fit, and you don't want to do all this work and get stuck underneath the truck fighting this. Trust me, it's not fun. So all right, guys, we got the Crossmember fully pancaked and welded all the way around. So as you can see, Added the plates in there, welded those. I made sure to keep it all equal to or a little bit behind the sides here, so it's all gonna be nice and easy to slide on to the frame rails now. And I just prepped it all. I wire wood everything. I hit it with some Scotch-Brite just so I could get a nice coat of 415 in a can on here and save this thing from rusting in the future. So this is locked in now. That was the whole pancake section of this. Now probably clean up after this and I'll get working on it tomorrow, and I'll show you guys what you need to do to your steering and your frame on the actual truck itself in order to fit and work all this stuff together. So alright guys, the Pancake Crossmember is now in. We kind of threw everything back together. The suspension wise, the brakes are not all back together, but I just want to show you what else has to be done if you're doing this on a stock setup. As you can see, the tie rod is now gonna touch the Crossmember now that it's 2 inches higher, and that's gonna be an issue. Can't even turn the whole wheel straight. Same thing on the other side back there. So basically the solution is to move all the steering up as well. First, I gotta move the steering box up. That's gonna be the whole thing. And then that other idler arm on the other side has to get moved up the same amount that I moved this one up. Once all that stuff is moved up, probably gonna have to cut the frame first. I'll notch the frame, move everything up, reinstall everything, and then it's just a bunch of testing on and off, on and off. Air out the truck all the way, steer left and right, make sure everything clears when the truck's at its lowest and its highest. So this steering bar also might not work. I had to disconnect it in order to get this upper control arm on. All right guys, I just cut a piece out of the frame right now. You can see that chunk missing right there. I also drilled some new holes for the steering box. So these are the original ones and I went up an inch. These ones also have to go up an inch. I'm gonna try to test it out right now. I'm gonna go cut the other side of the frame. Then I'm gonna retest fit everything and see how it fits. If it fits good, I'll weld in some plates to stiffen that frame where I cut, and then we'll keep going from there. All right guys, after a bunch of on and off with the parts and steering components mainly, we're able to get the truck back on its wheels, aired out all the way, at least until the point where it's touching the fenders now. As you can see here, it's right about to touch. Well, it is touching now, but I didn't put much weight on it. I just got it as low as it could go, because now I'm gonna mark the fender some more so I could give it that extra bit of clearance it needs to go lower. But as you can see here, I moved the steering box up an inch, and I moved the idler arm up an inch. You can see the old holes. Let me show you. You can see where it's at now and the old holes. So it's up an inch. Also, where I cut the frame, this is aired almost all the way out, and we have the clearance that we need. So now I'm gonna box that little section in where it's cut so I could stiffen the frame there. All right guys, so we've been messing with the truck and we had to cut out some more of the fenders, and we got both sides. Needs a little bit more trimming on this side, but we got the tires a little higher now, aka the body a little lower. Still got clearance on the frame down there. And now what we don't have clearance on is our actual cross member is touching the stopper on the lower control arm. So I don't know if you could see there, I marked with the Sharpie. I'm gonna just grind off that little section right there, give it a little room, and maybe that'll give it a little bit more. All right guys, Beto's busting ass right now. He got the shock little towers, L brackets, whatever you want to call them, cut out. As you can see, they're chopped out of there. This side is done as well. He cut that out, and it's right here on the floor. So since everything is getting lifted to 2 inches ideally, we got to bring all this other stuff up too. So I showed you guys earlier. So now we're gonna just set those up a little bit more, and we'll re-weld them in place, make sure everything's lined up square before, just like it was before. And I'm gonna get those welded back in so we can mount our shocks. Zapatos de Gucci! What do you guys think? His socks are good? Alright players, pretty much wrapped up all the little side things I need to do to this, except for one thing I'll show you guys right now. So I finished notching the frame here, added a plate, welded it up to stiffen up the frame right there. where I created a weak point basically. And now it's solid and reinforced. Beto cut out the shock brackets and I lifted them up, and so now I re-welded those in, painted those up, leave it nice and clean. Since the Pancake brought everything up, the steering all had to move up with it. That's why I had to cut those notches in the frame just to make clearance, because all the steering was actually starting to hit the crossmember. So I had to move everything up to clear. Now everything's looking solid. The last thing I gotta do to make this stuff all work with the Pancake is to hook up the steering shaft from the steering box to the column, because now when you air the truck all the way out, this upper control arm smacked the existing shaft there. So I bought an extra joint from CPP. I got this one right here, a standard U-joint for steering shafts, 3/4 inch. I got this support bearing, which basically is gonna hold it to the frame with this bracket. Mount it on the frame with the bracket, then use this to hold the 2-piece now that we're turning it into. So I'm gonna take you guys along that, and then that should pretty much wrap up the whole Pancake. I just gotta clean up some of the wiring, but I'm gonna just tuck those wires back up, install that steering shaft kit, and we'll be solid. Oh yeah, look.
Down there.
All right, guys.
Fred just did some fucked up ass holes.
No, Beto just made these holes for the little set-in pins or lock-in pins, whatever you wanna call them. But I cut that straight piece, basically made it into like a 2-piece version now. Here's this little bearing we're gonna use. It's gonna go something like this. So this is gonna go at the bottom into the original one I had, and this bracket's gonna go somewhere like this. I gotta make a little spacer to come out this way more, and then the other joint goes on this, and then the other piece is gonna be in between the 2 joints. And then basically this bracket's gonna hold it in place, and now we're gonna clear our upper control arm. So you're gonna set these little screws in them. They'll just thread right in here and lock that thing in place. So all right, players, been some time now. We had like a little bit of a busy weekend doing some other things, but got a chance to work on the C10 again and just finalize some things. My cousin brought some other parts too, like this new hood latch. We got this fresh up top up here, so the hood closes nice and solid. But mostly what I want to do is finalize this video on all the Pancake stuff. So I showed you guys the notch in the frame, the lifted steering box and idler arm over there to bring all the rest of the steering components up. Now I finalized this. I don't know where I left off with you guys earlier, but we ended up going with a different plan, and I didn't put the bracket there like we originally were thinking, and I ended up going over here. I cut a piece of the crossmember out and I made a little bracket and I welded in place there. I don't know if you could tell, but here's a steering support bearing and our new joint that we put in place. I just tightened everything up right now, and I just wanted to show you guys the whole point of this. Right now I'm gonna have Beto air out the truck, and we'll see why we have to go through this trouble. Watch the control arm right now. See how it's moving? And all the way out, still clears. So that's pretty much the last thing that we had to do to get this thing sitting on the ground. As you can see now, it's sitting a lot more level than before. With that extra bit of drop in the front, it was able to match the rear drop that it has. So pretty successful. Now we finished everything up. Everything's tied back in together. Pretty much that wraps it all up, guys. Hopefully this helps you guys out if you're trying to do the Pancake on your C10 or Blazers. It also works on Blazers. So that pretty much wraps up this video, guys. I hope it helps out. Like I said, thanks for the support. We're getting a lot of new followers and stuff, probably because the Impala or Beto's Camaro, I don't know. But just if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and you can see progress on all these projects that we're going along with. So thanks again, guys. Peace out.